Good morning. Good morning.
Hello. Hello, Tamika. Nice to see you as always.
Good to see you, Hams. Delighted to be here. It is Wednesday, November. Wow. Wednesday, February 24th. The month of February is almost over. And I'm Tamika Miller. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Events at the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce. And I'm delighted to be here today with Hans Hansen. He is the founder and CEO of College Logic. And he today is going to take you through a very good presentation. He's very well versed in LinkedIn and how to network authentically, how to communicate and connect with people authentically using LinkedIn. And so now, without further ado, I gladly and proudly hand off to you, Hans, to present on networking authentically using LinkedIn. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Tamika. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here, and welcome to all of your wonderful guests. Good job for your guests to come and get involved in activities and events like this. I love this discussion. As you know, whether you're 15 years old or 75 years old or anywhere in between, as we enter the 2020s and start to move our way through the 2020s. COVID notwithstanding, if we want to work, if we want to be employed, if we want to get paid, we have to demonstrate our worthiness. And there are a lot of ways to do that. But before we even get started, everyone has to ask themselves a couple of basic questions. One is, how do you want to be perceived? The perception, sooner or later, has to result in being perceived as being worthy of pay. But it doesn't just start that way. A lot of people just want to get to the end game and start that way. It doesn't work. You have to establish your brand. You have to ask yourself, how do you want to be perceived? How do you want to be remembered? What's your brand? What's your message? How will you distinguish yourself from everybody else? Because remember, everybody on the planet is capable these days of going online and hitting a submit button. Those people are not distinguishing themselves from anybody. Just because you might have a list of credentials, oh, you worked a job before, you graduated from a good college, you had a high GPA, whatever it is, you're smart, you're intelligent, you have all this experience, those are credentials. But people have credentials. Everybody has credentials out there. So you have to separate yourself. You separate yourself by thinking about what is your vision, what's your resolve, how will you express it? So I have two ways here today to talk about expressing it. The first one is right away on Zoom. Now, I've been on Zoom for a lot of years, working with families across the country in South America and India and China. It's been a great platform. But since COVID, it's become a familiar platform. And yet, 11 months into this whole pandemic and the heightened use of Zoom, I still find where at least 3/4 of users don't use it well. Now, what do I mean by not using it well? Well, what it means is this. When you come on Zoom, there's an immediate impression of you. It's immediate. Just like meeting somebody face to face, shaking their hands, whatever. There's an immediate impression. And you influence that impression. So as you get ready for Zoom calls, there are a handful of things that are very important. One is they see you well. The light is in front of you. See how when I put my hand up here, there's shade because the light is in front of you. Never have the light behind you. Always have the light in front of you, facing your face, facing you. Of course, it helps to have an HD camera. I have a Logitech HD 1080. Doesn't cost much, but it makes a big difference. I have a good camera. We spend as much time looking into the camera as we can. But that's another subject. Secondly, I have a snowball. This device, it's a little microphone. It doesn't cost much, but it projects the sound better. So now I have my camera, I have my little microphone, I have the light in front of me, and now I conveniently, purposefully I should say, stage the rest of the room. It's not by accident that I have two bass guitars sitting here. By having two bass guitars sitting here, it naturally allows the other person like you right now to get a sense that, maybe I play the guitar. Maybe I'm into music. So now you immediately get a little bit of sense of who I am, some of the things that I do. It's not by accident that I have a nice picture behind me. It's an abstract picture. It happens to be an abstract picture of a golfer. People ask me about it all the time. They ask me about my basses. They ask me about the picture. So that's not by accident. I want people to ask. Now, the picture has colors. Right. So what do? I wear color. Why do I wear color? Because I have a black background chair and a white background wall. If I wear a black shirt, it'll just blend right in. You won't see me except my head. And that looks funny by itself. With the white walls, if I wear a white shirt, the white blends in. The HD camera can't separate the difference. So therefore, none of this is by accident that I might look like a professional. Well, that's your opportunity as well. You come on Zoom and you look like a professional. That gives an immediate impression. That is just the quick insight into who you are. A little bit about your brand. And then that's what gives the person on the other side a little bit greater interest to learn more. So before we get into Zoom, I get into LinkedIn, the secret to building relationships is to engage with them. The way you engage is you validate yourself, you establish your credentials, and then you validate them. You validate them by asking questions of them. Not necessarily questions about their business or their company, but just questions about them. Get to know them. Always consider them. This is a big deal to understand this before we get into LinkedIn. Always understand them. If we've learned as a society one thing from the COVID experience, it's often all about the other person. We as a society need to have more consideration, more compassion for the other person. Now, if you're sitting in an interview of any kind, trying to get into colleges, trying to get your first job, trying to get your third job, trying to get a loan from a bank, whatever it is, if you approach it that it's all about me, you will lose their interest quick. If you make it all about them, their interest in you will heighten substantially. When their interest in you heightens substantially, they will want to hear more about you. Now remember, this is all going to link directly to LinkedIn. So as you start engaging with them, you're answering their questions, you're asking them questions. You think about a couple things. What do you stand for? What do you stand for? And who knows this about you? What do you stand for? People will not hire you for your credentials. They will hire you for who you are. And that means, how do you think? So what do you stand for? What's your vision? What's your resolve? We can't get away from these questions. One reason, here in a few minutes, these are the questions that we answer in your LinkedIn profile when your LinkedIn profile is done well. Throughout this process of coming on Zoom and meeting people on Zoom and maybe doing Zoom interviews and maybe engaging with people and talking to them about what you stand for and what your vision is, what your resolve is, what is your plan, all of it. A couple more keys here. It's not what you want to say. Rather, it's what you want them to hear. It's a big difference. When you're writing, because we're going to write on LinkedIn, it's not what you want to write. It's what you want them to read. How do you want them to feel as they are engaging with you? Okay. A quick question came through. What are some virtual ideas for students to network? Well, there are a lot of online networking organizations. Some are local. Some are like through the chamber for certain. Some you pay for. And some are relatively free. But you look for groups that you can join that host. They call it networking. I call it connecting events. Always be looking for connecting events. Even Facebook groups are connecting events. In my world of helping kids get into college, every college has a Facebook group of newly accepted students. So when a student gets accepted into a college, they can join this Facebook group and they can network. They can connect with other accepted students. What does that mean? It means if they choose to go to school there, they may already have some friends in place before they get there. That's what networking does, or connecting does. It builds your allies, your base of allies. All right. So as we get ready to shift into LinkedIn, we think about, it's really all about you, your voice, your face, your words, your message. It's all about how that is received by the other person. So again, in Zoom, it's in live and living color, and it's immediate. On Facebook, it's not always live, but it's immediate. So if you do it wrong, then you create the immediate wrong impression. And if you do it right, you have a right impression. So now we think about other ways in which we want people to know us, because ultimately the question is, Who knows any of this stuff about me? Me being you. You need to be asking yourself, who knows any of this? You have great ideas. You have vision. You have internal desires. Well, how is anybody going to know this about you? So, one of the platforms that is now, I think there's 750 million people on LinkedIn. What happens is if they meet you on Zoom, or they meet you in a Facebook group, or you get you submit a job application, what do you think people do? They go on LinkedIn. They go in to see your LinkedIn profile. Now, what I encourage everybody to do is take a look at my LinkedIn profile. It's Hans Hanson, LinkedIn. All you have to do is click on Hans Hanson, Hanson, and you'll see my professional LinkedIn profile. And what you're going to see are a handful of things that are really important. So again, this is going to be your way to share with people who you are, what you stand for, and what's your brand. Now, I would show you mine. I'm inclined to show you mine, but what you see when you look at your own, you see an editable version, which is different than what you would see. So if you look at mine, there are going to be about 6 or 7 very key things that are important about a LinkedIn profile so that you are perceived by them. Remember the word them, whoever them is. You are perceived by them based on how you want to be perceived. You get to choose how you are perceived. So let's talk about how do you create perception. Let's go back, review for a minute something I said early on. You have to establish that you're worthy of pay. Not that you're entitled to it or you're deserving of it, but that you're worthy of it. By the time somebody lands on your LinkedIn profile, they're probably in the exploration phase of a process, and they're exploring to find out what they can find out about you. So, just like anything else, they will have an immediate perception when they click on your LinkedIn profile. And I have one of my favorite little personal quotes is, you're either linked in or you're linked out. So let's establish a clear difference right now. If you're going to have an account, the account needs to be professionally built out. And if it's not, and it's incomplete, then that's worse than not having one. So for the millions of people out there who created a LinkedIn profile because they thought they were supposed to, but didn't do anything with it, that's actually harmful. So you either have it and you've done something very good with it, or you haven't. LinkedIn or linked out. Now, 750 million people on LinkedIn and growing. It is for professionals. It's not Facebook. It's not a social platform. It's a professional platform. So therefore, we need to reflect our professional self. We start off with a photo, a good photo that reflects your professional self. It's not a family photo. It's not me hanging out with my dogs or whatever, me playing the bass. That's for my Facebook group. You start off with a professional photo. I, for one, will not look at a LinkedIn profile if it doesn't have a professional photo. So that is like immediate. Number two, you have a title. Now, a large number of people misinterpret the word title. They think it's, the title of the job. Oh, I'm CEO, I'm CFO, I'm vice president, I'm sales director, I'm this or I'm that, as a job title. So when you're editing your LinkedIn profile, we're not looking, nobody wants to know what is your job title. Rather, that is a description of what you do. So if you look at mine and immediately what you could tell me what I did, what I do. You would say, oh, Hans saves parents thousands on college costs. He must be a college advisor. So what's important are two immediate things. One is a good photo, and then one is a description of what you do. So people know immediately what you do. They don't care about your title at your office. They don't care, or the company you used to work for. They don't care about titles. They care about what you want to do. You might start yours off by saying aspiring financial investment advisor, aspiring attorney, aspiring whatever it is you aspire to do. I love the word aspire for people looking for jobs. What do you aspire for? Because if I'm looking at your profile, I want to see that you aspire to do something related to what I'm looking for. So two things right away, the photo and the title line. Really, it's a description line. Very important that you get that right to get people's immediate attention to click on your profile, to go further, to stay on it. Now, once they click on it, there are about 5 things that we all look for. The first thing we look at is the background in the header. And if you just have a standard, dull header that doesn't show anything, then you have just joined the group of millions who, again, don't understand LinkedIn, don't understand what you're trying to do. So when you look at my header, this is a custom-made header. It supports what I do. Your header needs to support what you do. So people, now they're on your profile, they see your picture, they see what you're looking for, what a description of what you aspire to become. Then they see a nice header that supports it. They see that, they go down, they continue on. Now you start to get the message that our job is not to get them on our profile, our job is to keep them on it. So now as you look down my profile, what people look at next are number of connections. Well, number of connections really doesn't seem to have much significance. But the way it works at LinkedIn, once you have 500 connections, it says 500 plus. Everybody's goal needs to be to get to 500 as fast as you can. Because if you're not at 500, it means you haven't tried hard enough to connect. Now, if you just started your account last week, you're not going to have 500. It might take a few months. But if you've had your account open for a year, you should be at 500 connections or more. Now let's think about connections. There's a debate out there pertaining to connections. The debate centers around this fallacy about LinkedIn as it pertains to Facebook. On Facebook, you connect or friend people who you know, and you don't friend people who you don't know. For obvious reasons, if you friend somebody you don't know, they can post on your page. So we have to be sure of who we're friends with on Facebook before we friend them. But in LinkedIn, they can't post anything on your LinkedIn page. There's nothing wrong with connecting with just about everybody who requests to connect with you. The exceptions are people who don't have photos or people who don't have their title line filled out. Don't connect with those people. But if anybody else that appears to be professional requests to connect with you, click the connect. Some people like to send back notes to say, well, geez, how would I know you? No, you don't need to do that. Just connect. I've met tremendous people on LinkedIn through my willingness to connect with them and then find out more about them. So connect, 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 and connect more. The more people you're connected to, the better LinkedIn works for you. You never know where that next opportunity is going to come from. So now, as we move down, I'm just taking you through the journey of somebody coming on LinkedIn. So again, they might have seen your picture, the title line, which is really the description. They click on you. They see a nice background. They see that you have 500 plus connections. Now, their interest is gaining. So now you have an About Me section. And if you click on mine, you'll see that it is highly structured with asterisks. The very first thing it says, call me at, contact me here. Very first thing. Well, you're free to copy and paste mine right into your LinkedIn profile and then just customize it with your phone numbers, emails, and your information. But the structure of that is like the perfectly laid out structure so that people can click on that and learn more about you, your specialties, your strengths, what you target. So see, too many people in that section just write a little paragraph. Oh, I do this, I do that. I've been here for years. I've done this. I built sales up to millions. I did all these things. Well, it's not really a section designed to just write paragraphs about yourself. Why not? Because nobody's going to read them. So I have bullet points or asterisks and stars and stuff like that, just so people, boom, see this, boom, see that, boom, see this. Now they say, okay, I'm liking this person more. I'll stay on the LinkedIn profile and I'll do some more exploration. So now they move down and they see activities of mine, my blog posts. It's called content. Well, content is very important these days. Everybody needs to have content. I was speaking yesterday on a call with someone just like you. And I asked them, do you have any great ideas? They go, yeah, I have some. Yeah, I have a great idea to do this and this and this. I said, well, where do you have it captured? They go, I don't know. I said, so a year from now, if you don't have it captured somewhere, did you really have a great idea? And they go, not really. So creating content, there's long form content, short form content, and we're not really going to get into all that here. But content is where you establish credibility. So you look at my content, there might be 150 to 200 articles that I've written. And people can click on any of it. They're not going to sit there and read 10 articles, they're probably not going to read 2. What they're going to read is, or what they're going to see is that I have content. That's my credibility. So let's just slow down for a minute and think about what we're doing here. We have to catch somebody's immediate attention. That's with a photo. That's with a nice description line. Immediate attention. Then they come on and they want to know a little bit about it. They just want to determine, do they want to spend 5 minutes on my profile? So I have to give them quick reason to stay on my profile for 5 minutes. They see the nice background photo. They look at my contacts and they see 500 plus. They look down about me and they see a nice, well-structured area of quick bites, simple bites of information about me. Then they look down at my content. And again, content is very important. All of you have great ideas. All of you have thoughts and feelings about things and a vision for things. But if you don't capture it somewhere, then nobody will ever know. Remember what I asked you earlier on? Who knows about it? Who knows this stuff about you? Well, in this section here, where you can create a post or create an article, it's so simple to click on create an article, write something that's important to you, give it a title, and attach a photo to it. All of this you can do in a half an hour's time. If you do one a week, in 10 weeks, you have 10 articles. So look at my articles, look them over, think about them. It's my way of sharing my thoughts with people. This needs to be your way of sharing your thoughts, your ideas. This establishes your credibility. They won't go on without credibility. Too many people don't have any articles. They don't have any content. All their content is up in their brain. Well, that comes and goes, as we all know. You have to capture your content. Just imagine 5 years from now, you might have a couple hundred articles posted. You'll be amazed to go back and look at some of the articles you wrote. And it all forms your credibility. And your credibility leads to maybe the perception of worthiness. So these are all steps leading someone to perceive you as being worthy of pay. Okay, now that we have content, if you scroll down more on my profile page, you'll get to recommendations. You'll see that I've had over 40 people recommend me. And likewise, I've recommended about 30 people. Now, as you look on LinkedIn profiles, rarely will you see LinkedIn profiles with more than 5 recommendations. And oftentimes you'll see a LinkedIn profile with 1 or 2 recommendations coming in, but none going out. Now, if I had 40 recommendations of me coming in, but I only have 5 going out, that's not fair. That's not equal. That's not the perception I want people to have. So this takes a conscious effort to get people to submit recommendations and for you to recommend others. Now, the thing about the recommendation here, there's a button that says request a recommendation or ask a recommendation. you can ask somebody to write a recommendation on you. That person must be a LinkedIn member. If they're not on LinkedIn, they can't recommend you. So if they're on LinkedIn, they can recommend you. And you can request a recommendation, but you have nothing to do with what they say. They say it, they submit it to you. You have one choice. Do you want to post it or reject it? But you can't edit it. So these are legitimate recommendations. They can't be made up. They can't be fake. They're legitimate, credible recommendations. Again, people are not going to come on and start reading my recommendations. What they're going to do is look to see that I have them. And provided that I have them, they may read one or two. And then they'll look to make sure that, I'm balancing this here by also providing recommendations out. So now, the last section is like your history. It's like your career or life story. And sure, you can go back to your high school days and capture whatever it is that you would like to capture from your high school days, from when you graduated high school, if you went to college, if you got any jobs along the way, that's where you can capture it. That's kind of at the bottom because that's not as important as the other areas. However, it's still important. When I get ready to speak with anybody who I met on LinkedIn, I always look at that section to see what they've been doing the last 10 years. I don't really care what they did 30 years ago, frankly, but I do care what they've been doing for the last 10 years and the last 2 years, the last 6 months. So it's important to have information in there about you, but that's easy for you to do. You create it once and you update it once every few months, or it updates itself automatically. But that kind of completes your profile sheet. So if you follow all these steps, you have a professional profile sheet that works for you, not against you. And it works to provide the impression you want others to have in you or of you, the impression you want others to have of you. You know what it is, or you want to say, how you want to look, how you want to come across. But to reiterate a point, it's not what you want to say, it's what you want them to hear. I'm just going to use a quick example. I turned on the morning news a few mornings ago when some weather was going to be bad, and it was 7 o'clock in the morning, and the newscaster says, "Hey, good morning, welcome. We're happy to have you wake up with us this morning." Now, that's not necessarily something that she wanted to say, but it's something that she wanted us to hear. When I hear that, I think they just welcomed me and thanked me for waking up with them. Now, that's an interesting personal feeling. So they know how they want me to feel, and they will say certain things so that I feel the way they want me to feel. Well, this is our job. This is your job. How do you want people to feel about you? On Zoom, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, in emails, in text messages. If you look at my email, for example, I have an embedded, what's called the address section. Embedded in that, I have 2 little videos. Now, they're not videos of me, they're videos of other people. 2-minute videos. These are fascinating videos. What happens is when somebody gets an email from me, they might read the message, of course, that I send them, and they have an option to click on the video that I have embedded right there above my name. And if they do, the 2 little videos represent how I think. Then I have my name, and then I have a couple more embedded items below, like a link to my profile. My LinkedIn profile is embedded right there on my email. Every email that goes out, people have an opportunity to click on my LinkedIn profile. So I make it very easy for people to click on my LinkedIn profile. So I make it easy to be found in their searches. I have a phone number. I have an email. I have contact information. So I want to be open. I want to be out there. I want to be easily accessible. I don't want to be closed and hard to find. If you're closed down and hard to find and hard to talk with, you're going to find it exceedingly difficult to have somebody feel that you're worthy of pay. So all of these things we do are designed to enhance the other person's perception of me, perception of my thinking, of my mindset, of my vision. The delicate trick here is to present myself the way I want others to see me, but at the same time knowing that the real secret of building relationships is to validate the other person, right? So I said that in the beginning. So here's one of the quick tips. If somebody asks to connect with you on LinkedIn, or you connect with them, somebody on LinkedIn, then through LinkedIn, you can send them a quick quick memo through LinkedIn asking them, would you like to get on a Zoom call together with me? A brief Zoom call, 10-minute Zoom call, just to say hello. Maybe 1 out of 10 says yes. That's all right. It's 1 more than we had last week. So we don't want to be tied down to emails. That's just a surface level introduction. We want to take every contact, every connection that we have electronically, and convert it into a human interaction as quick as we can. And while phone calls still work, they don't work as good as Zoom. When we're connected on Zoom here, remember, I can smile and you can see that. Or I might frown and you could see that. But you can't tell those things on a phone call. So we want to convert every interaction that we have as quickly as we can from an electronic contact or connection to a personalized contact and connection. That's what Zoom is for. That's what in-person meetings are for. you can be sure that between the time that that happens, people will look at your social media. They will look over your LinkedIn profile. I have my own website. People will click on my website and look at my website. I have a Facebook group. People will click on that, look at that. It only takes 10 minutes really to check on your social media to see if they still want to have the call. So we have to pull all these things together. We have to pull all these things together. They work together. You can't be missing one piece of it. Any one piece doesn't work. It's like going to play golf without taking a putter with you. You might be good at the other pieces, the drivers and the irons, but if you can't putt, you won't be very good in the game. So whatever game it is, in this case, it's a game of life, the game of jobs, internships, jobs, all these things that you want. We have to create an initial perception. We have to be consistent with delivering that, which means we keep our LinkedIn profile up to date. My next tip is simple. Spend 15 minutes every other day on LinkedIn. Now you can spend 15 minutes every day and request connections. I can tell you what I did. I requested 50 connections a day, 5 or 6 days a week, 50 connections a day over the course of a couple of years' time. Now I have several thousand connections. It doesn't take very long to do that. Once you connect with me, and I welcome you to connect with me, go ahead and connect with me. You then get access to my connections. That's how you build upon them. The more people you connect with, the more access you get. You get access to my connections by requesting to connect with one of my connections, and they'll get the message that says, oh, you have one mutual connection, Hans Hansen. That's better than having none, right? So all these things work together so that eventually you get to the point in which you distinguish yourself from the pack, from everyone else. You are 1 out of 10. You cannot distinguish yourself from the pack by being just like the other 9. You've got to be better. You have to be different. You have to distinguish yourself and give people real reason to invite you in on a job shadowing opportunity or internship opportunity or job opportunity. All right. That's a wrap for me this morning. If I was to keep on going, I could go on for another couple of hours, I'm pretty darn sure. But this gives you a good overview of how to use LinkedIn, how to connect on Zoom, how to use text messages or email messages to connect with people in a meaningful way with the purpose, the express purpose of always taking it to a Zoom call, a live in-person or Zoom call. All righty. That's it for me.
All right. Thank you so much, Hans. That was a very thorough discussion about all the strategies, about how you can network, start a relationship using Zoom and also LinkedIn. So we thank you so much for that.
It is my pleasure. I'm happy to do so anytime and happy to help all of your guests as needed.
And Hans, did you tell people how they can contact you in the future?
No. I just mentioned my email but people can send me an email at
Okay.
hance@mycollegelogic.com.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
And I'm
Thank you.
happy to answer anybody's questions or even take a look at their LinkedIn profile and give them a quick little feedback on it. You know how we do it, Tamika. We're happy to do those things for these people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure someone's going to take you up on that offer.
They
So
always
thank you
do.
so much.
Thank you, Tamika. I appreciate being here with you today.
Absolutely. So folks, we're going to be moving on to the next session. If you're interested in learning all about how to ace the virtual interview, that's going to be our next session at 11:30. So that means you'll have to sign out of this session and in Hoover, go into Hoover and sign in at the 11:30 session, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.